What's up, y'all? It's the Yungavelle here, back at it with another video. So, building off kind of the similar concept of the last video that I did about the subconscious mind and the book The Secret of the Ages, today I want to talk about this book that kind of really assisted me heavily on the nofap and semen retention path, and it still is like a driving force to me today. It's called Cupids Poisoned Arrow. And it is one of the most transformational books that I have read to date. So, it's basically about, how can I begin? It's about brain chemistry and how essentially orgasm is Cupid's poisoned arrow. Because orgasm is basically a biological mechanism. It affects your brain in such a way where in a couple ways. One, it excretes dopamine, which is the crave molecule, which is why you'll want more of it after you're done and stuff like that. But another thing that it does is this thing called habituation, and it's a biological mechanism such that if you keep having repeated orgasms with your partner, your brain over time begins to habituate to them. And that basically means that it begins to find novel partners more attractive. So if you want to stay with someone long term, this is something that you might want to be thinking about, because what literally happens in your brain is that the neurochemistry starts gearing towards making novel partners seem more interesting. Because as a biological mechanism, the more partners you have, the more genetic variation your offspring will have, so they'll be better apt genetically to fight off any random diseases that might, mutations and stuff like that might manifest themselves in the future from nature and all that. So literally, orgasm is a biological mechanism that starts to gear your brain towards habituating yourself towards your partner. Like, well, I did my thing here, now I fulfilled my biological purpose. And it's so interesting because some species, after they fulfill their biological purpose of sex, they die. So you can understand that, like, our brain has a little semblance of like, okay, I'm done here. I've done my job here. My job is done biologically. So I move on to find a novel partner. So there's ways that you can combat that as per this book. What they were basically proposing is this more sex, less orgasms, right? That's one way. And the style of sex is called carezza. And it's basically based off of the bonding based programs in the brain. Because the brain functions when it comes to sex and relationships in terms of the mating mechanism, which is the habituation and all that, orgasm, plant my seed, I'm good. The mating, that's the crave, that's the hunger, that's the hungry touch, like I need to get off, kind of like that kind of mating program. Your brain runs automatically on that sometimes when it gets in that state. The other program is the bonding based program. The bonding based program is built off of familial relations in your brain. Like when you're a kid, when you're a baby, you have those certain chemicals that bond you to the mother and bond you to your family and stuff like that. Those are the bonding based relations that lead to long lasting, more fulfilling relationships when you move that way. And bonding based actions are things that we're familiar with. It's about hugging, kissing, caressing, spooning, all those kind of like, I gotta crack my back. All those kind of those things that bring about the neurotransmitter or the molecule called oxytocin. Oxytocin is different from dopamine. Oxytocin is different in dopamine such that the more that you produce oxytocin in the brain, the more sensitive your brain becomes to oxytocin. So it basically means the more you stimulate oxytocin, the more you stimulate oxytocin, the more you want, like it feels good consistently. Dopamine, on the other hand, is the one that, for example, orgasm is such a loud event for the brain. When you get that big flood of dopamine and you keep doing that over and over, this is why no fap, semen retention, and the books and the talks about your brain on porn, and this is why they're so popular, because when that dopamine surge hits your brain, it's so loud, your neurotransmitters start to go like this, where they start to cover themselves, so you'll need more of said dopamine, said stimulus, in order to elicit that feeling again. So dopamine does not become more sensitive the more you secrete it. It's just that's a biological mechanism. And oxytocin, on the other hand, if you're looking for long-lasting relationships, that's what you want. So this book is great because it basically gives you a guide to pick and choose how you what program you want to run off of, like where you're at in your life, and it puts you onto the fact that, and Tom Bilyeu says this in Impact Theory a lot. He's like, life is a game of brain chemistry, among other things, obviously. But like when it comes to happiness and stuff like that, and fulfillment, we're talking brain chemistry. So relationships and constant orgasm is something that's going to affect your brain chemistry, which is going to affect your mood, which is going to affect your actions and your driving factors. So it's just so interesting that the book's title is Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. And I know the Vedic literature says this so often. What is what is nectar in the beginning is poison in the end, and what is poison in the beginning is nectar in the end. So, this is something I've been practicing, when I have sex. I do my best to remain in the oxytocin phase, and that's something that as you get along in the no-fap and semen retention path and you start to develop relationships with people intimately, that's another hurdle that you're going to have to cross, where you can easily fall right back into the same brain chemistry if you're having consistent sex. So you have to, I'm telling you, this path is not for everybody. But if we're talking self-development, manifestation of your best self, brain chemistry wise, try, do it. You know what I'm saying? Do it, give it a try. It's what's this? Jordan Peterson's, he says this quote a lot. It is to be determined that those who can delay gratification are far more likely to be successful in life. So having relationships and be like, no, I want to go the slow route, the Carezza route, more sex, and it's more sex, so you get connected more. It's just overall better, depending on what you want, depending on where you're at and stuff. But that is a choice for long-term gratification, and that's going to affect your brain chemistry in a positive way, as long as you're able to be conscious of the process and you go from there. You don't lose yourself in your animalistic ways. Although, it's nice to go off every once in a while and with your partner and stuff like that, because I'm sure they do enjoy that. But you always got to keep your mind on the goal. You always got to stay focused, because you don't want to let anything distract you from your self-development and your self-improvement. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys got something from this video. If you did, even if you didn't, make sure you crush that like button, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit me up in the comments with some more stuff you guys want to talk about. I really enjoy that. Like I always say, remember, till next time, a greater perspective can lead to a greater connection.